drinking craft beer, having fun, and talking sports in the state of Michigan. You're listening to State of My Sports.
This is where I usually mention the Hops, which are still part of the team here, but we're still trying to figure out when they're going to open. Still no updates, nothing like that. But if you're looking for a job in the food industry, general manager, some servers, go ahead and jump in and do that. But we're going to talk some Detroit Lions. Another loss, an insane offensive explosion, really. The Detroit Lions let us down, though, again, by losing 48-45, as the Lions scored 22 points in the fourth quarter, but the defense couldn't get off the field to save their life. And they also threw a pick six in the start of the second half, which, I mean, was basically the only flaw in the nearly perfect offensive game that they put together. And that was a rough. They just missed the onside kick towards the end there. Another close loss and sends the Lions to 1-3 on the young season. Goff was stellar, going 26 of 39 for 378 yards and 4 touchdowns. In the pick six, I already mentioned, but putting up numbers like that without Swift, without St. Brown, and without Shark, I mean, it was very, very impressive performance by Goff. Once again, he's honestly, the way that they have this offense humming, it is one of the best offenses. Well, we're getting into the stats here, but like it's one of the best offenses statistically, and just the way they're executing is, I've never seen it before, and it's awesome to see.
Number one scoring offense, I believe, in the NFL.
Yeah, number one.
I don't know that I would ever had imagined the Detroit Lions and that statistic being in the same sentence, unless we're the ones playing that team each week.
Yeah,
and it changes. Well, yeah, I mean the defensive woes, man. Talk about blowing a good thing that you had going there. It's a huge loss when it comes down to it, because let's face it, I think Seattle will be one of the bottom feeder teams by the end of the season. Props to Geno for doing his thing. I mean, they're missing Russell Wilson, but you can't really tell.
Yeah.
But like you said, Jared Goff played a heck of a game. Unfortunately, fantasy football purpose-wise, I played against Jared Goff this week.
Did you?
And I got torched.
That's no good. Jamal Williams had a nice game, 108 yards on 19 rushes and 2 touchdowns. Did have 1 catch, but also had a couple drops again that I think is very the biggest reason why I think Swift is so important to this offense, because he does catch the ball out of the backfield. On top of he's more explosive than Jamal. Jamal had a couple really big runs, which were great to see. I love what he's doing. I really do.
Absolutely. You couldn't ask more for your second string guy, you know. And he's kind of played a vital role in the offense since the beginning of the season too.
Yeah, even when Swift was healthy. Yeah.
Yep. So Swift being dinged up a little bit, it's good to see him get some reps. It's good to see that this guy can still get up and down the field too. As a veteran running back in the NFL. It's a great way to fill in. Just couldn't come out with that W. Man.
And then you got Craig Reynolds, who got his first really decent taste, I guess. He did have only 2 carries, but 30 yards. I mean, a couple explosive plays for him, which is great to see. And if Swift continues to be out, I think he's going to become more and more important.
I don't think Jamal Williams can handle that load all by himself.
Yeah, he's not a guy that's going to get 30 touches. Yep. I was surprised when I saw Craig Reynolds only had two rushes, but they were also slinging the ball, so they were able to move the ball that way.
And that was working too.
Yeah, it really was. And most of it was to Hutchinson. He's had a tough start to the season with only 10 catches for 82 yards heading into this game, along with a touchdown. On Sunday, he had 8 catches for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. This team needed someone to step up with all of the weapons out that we already mentioned, and it was nice to see him do it. It seems like, where has it been? He was fighting. He was catching balls everywhere, which is great to see. Like in, not in space. Basically, when he's guarded close, he was getting those 50-50 balls. He also wasn't going down right away. That's something a little different for him. Usually, it's catch the ball, get hit, fall to the ground.
Yeah.
He had some big plays, including, I think it was at an 80-yard almost touchdown. Almost got to the one. I think he got to the 1 yard line or something like that.
Yep.
That was awesome to see. It was what I think Lions fans believe he can be, but we haven't really seen it yet. The Travis Kelce's, the Zach Ertz when he was in his heyday type thing. Guys that are a true weapon tight end.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean we've only gotten to see spurts of it throughout his career because he's either banged up, we don't have a quarterback to get him the ball, or He's our only offensive weapon, and he's getting double teamed every single play. We've gotten to see little tiny sparks of this. Let's see him stretch it out over the course of a couple games, and the rest of the season, that would be great. But let's get these other wide receivers back on the field, alleviate a little bit of that pressure for him.
Yeah. But
let's know that he's there if he's not being blanketed out there. He's still a dangerous asset to that offense.
Yeah, and I was listening to a Goff interview on 97.1, and they kind of asked him that, like, hey, was this Hutchinson just because all the weapons were gone, or is this like a sign of things to come? And he was like, hey, it's not like we were forcing the ball to him, and that's kind of the key. Is like if you're not forcing it, then it should continue. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily because you don't have all these other weapons. Hopefully, it's so important to have multiple weapons, and if you have one out of the tight end spot, that changes everything, especially once Amon-Ra St. Brown comes back and James Williams comes back, and guys that you can hit all over the field. I think it's going to be interesting. And the way Ben Johnson's got this offense running is absolutely incredible. It's great to see. So, Josh Reynolds, I did already bring him up, I think, but he had 81 yards and 7 catches and a touchdown. 520 yards total, 145 rushing, 375 passing. There were only 4 of 10 on third down, but again, 3 of 3 on fourth. They're extending drives that way, which is great to see.
I think most teams with a similar stat line win that matchup each week. You could put any other name up there next to those numbers, and it seems to be a guaranteed W.
Yeah. Unless you're the Lions. That's basically where it's
unless you're the Lions. I picked up Josh Reynolds on fantasy football 5 minutes before the game.
Did you end up starting him too?
I did.
Nice.
And he was my highest point scoring wide receiver on the day, which goes to show that my wide receiver core needs a little help. But a huge little start. I lost the matchup, but I'm talking points for by the end of the season.
Yeah. So the Lions are leading the league in total points per game. They have 35 points per game, which is awesome. 5th in passing offense, 6th in rushing offense, but I think they're number 1 in total offense, yards per game.
That makes sense.
Which is like, man, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but it's so frustrating. How do you have that and you're 1 and 3? Well, the bad defense. Right?
Yeah. Well, luckily, the Lions are one of Vegas's favorite plays right now too, because they're doing this. You know, they're putting up the points and.
I was surprised. I didn't expect the Lions to be able to put up this many points without the players that we've already mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think I got to recalculate how I look at Goff. He is becoming. He's taking this team and he's leading it. He's leading this offense and he's doing a great job. He's taking care of the football. Obviously, he had the pick 6. That's, if you have just a couple bad throws a game, it happens. It sucks that he's thrown a couple pick 6s in crucial points in a game, and that could be the difference, unfortunately.
Well, luckily, we're used to that with Matt Stafford. Doesn't he lead the NFL in pick 6s? I think he's definitely got twice as many as second-place guys. So,
jeez.
Over the span of the last however many years. But no, I think with Jared Goff, it's, you're in a way, this is like your big audition with the Detroit Lions organization. You go out, have a heck of a year, put up some numbers, and you want to talk about maybe extending a contract. I don't know what he's got left. But
so he's got 2 years after this one,
2 years?
Believe. Yeah, but he becomes a cut candidate basically after this year.
This season,
is
right.
what they're saying.
So this is a chance for him to audition to the rest of the NFL, these other teams that might be looking for another quarterback next year, maybe add a veteran into some competition level if Detroit is willing to move on from him. It's an interesting time for him, and I think if he can continue to put up these numbers, I'm going to continue to root for the guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want him to go out there and lead us to victory. Missing a couple guys to help us do that right now, but I would not be upset if this is a guy that we have a couple more years down the road with the weapons that we're putting around him.
What I think it really goes down to, and I don't want to get into mock drafts or anything like that. We obviously have a lot to get into before we start thinking about that. But let's say you end up, let's just say you end up at, I think they're too good to end up below 10, in my opinion. We'll see how everything shakes up. But I don't want to force a quarterback just because we feel like we have to. And I feel like that's something that I thought we might have to do. But the way Goff is playing, the way that he is taking the bull by the horns with this offense, we don't have to force it. And that's the exciting thing. Could he become a piece, like a trade piece? I personally don't believe he could, just because it's just the way that this league is.
If Jimmy G didn't get traded, I don't know
if
anybody's going to want to take on the contract of Jared Goff in a trade right now.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't see that. And you're going to have free agents. You still have the Rodgers saga. I think that's still a thing that he might not be happy. Like I don't know how that's going to go down, but there's just going to be so many other things going on. I don't think we want to be part of that, and I don't want to trade for Lamar Jackson. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to give up future assets. I don't want to be part of the crazy overpaying for quarterbacks, because look at what's going on with like Russell Wilson and like I feel like there was another trade that hasn't gone well. Baker Mayfield isn't going well. I mean, obviously with Deshaun Watson crap, like that hasn't really gone great so far. So it's like I don't want to be part of that. I would rather build through the draft, get the quarterback, or get free agents. You know what I mean? Especially if we think Ben Johnson's the real deal, and it looks like he is. It sounds like he's becoming a big name that the league is talking about.
Nationwide media coverage, too.
So that's something that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I don't know. But I would just trust that, if Goff can do this, I think they can bring in somebody else, and he could do something pretty similar. You know what I mean? So did want to get part of the defense here. Just what they did, they gave up 555 total yards, 320 passing, 235 rushing, 8.8 yards per play. Now, Lions had 7.9, which is great, but defense, man, 8.8, 27 first downs, 9 of 12 on third down for the Seahawks. If it's not the pick six, if it's not anything, like that number is staggering. Like that tells you everything you need to know and why the Lions didn't win this game. It was rough. The time of possession was a blowout, 33-6 to 26-54. Geno Smith made it look so easy. He was 23 of 30 for 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he also had a rushing touchdown, right?
Yep.
Seven rushes for 49 yards. But Rashard Penny had a huge game, 17 carries for 151 yards. And then DK Metcalf, 7 catches for 149. Tyler Lockett, 91 with 6. It's just they made it look easy. The Lions seemed to shoot themselves in the foot every time that they got them behind the sticks, just big play after big play. Just really, really frustrating. And we talked about how good the offense has been. The defense has been the exact opposite. They're dead last in total defense, 444.8 yards per game. Third to last in pass defense with 279 per game. Third to last in rushing defense with 165. And last in points allowed per game at 35.3, which is 6.5 more points than Seattle, who is second to last. Which, I mean, that kind of game will do that to both teams. But it's too bad. And I don't understand the game enough. And I always say this, like I can't sit back and look at this and say, well, this scheme's not working. Like I don't see the schemes. I just sit and watch the plays. So I don't really. I wish I knew more. It sounds like they're going to be changing up some personnel stuff to try to make things happen. One thing that he keeps saying is there's a player that they can't trust yet, and I don't know who that is. I don't think it's Aiden, but it's weird that he's Campbell's coming out and saying that. It'll be interesting to see once Sunday comes around with the Patriots. Something's going to be different. It's going to be a different person. I don't know if it's a Warrior who continues to get exposed, but just really frustrating. Again, I don't know the X's and O's, but I sit and watch this Aiden Hutchinson. He continues to struggle. He seems tired once the game starts going. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Aiden? Like it doesn't look right to me.
No, he looks to be pretty hype, and then like you said, he comes out flat. It could be one running play where they stuff a tackle and they set the running back, and it's like, okay, he looks like he's moving good now, and then 10 plays you don't see him make any impact on the defensive line. Obviously there's a lot of pressure on the guy, and he's going to be going up against men that he is yet to step on a field with. I've always found that matchup intriguing too, like a an edge rusher versus an experienced offensive lineman.
Yeah. Now Seattle does have 2 rookies in their tackle positions.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they're rebuilding everything on the offensive side. Yeah.
And I think that's the scariest thing for me. And I don't want to overreact to Aiden, and because he looks fine. He does blow things up here and there. He's putting up decent numbers when it comes to pro football focus. I think he had a few tackles and some pressures, which is good. But it almost seems like they're allowing him to over pursue and using that motor against him. So I think he's got to change that. But at the same time, it looks like he's getting out muscled. It looks like he's I don't know if he's big enough.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say, but the weight is a big thing, and I don't know. He might just be a little too slender for this game, and the short arms could be an issue too. I've heard people say. I don't want to overreact, but it needs a change. Because we all saw when he was playing, when we were getting quarterback pressures and sacks and stuff in the Washington game, we got a lot of pressure in the Philly game. That I think was really exciting. But the last 2 games, it's been the exact opposite, and it changes everything. And that's what's really hurting our defense is no pressure, no organic pressure.
Yeah.
So we're throwing these blitzes in, and the other teams are clearly taking advantage of it, and that's scary to me. It's when you have to change what you want to do just to get the pressure, that's where they can really take advantage and dominate, and that's what we've seen.
Yeah, and I mean, Gino has seen his fair share of blitzes over the years from, different stints on other teams, playing behind Russell Wilson and watching enough film. I mean, I feel like he just had an opportunity to pick that defense apart without Tracy Walker back there,
that's
too.
That's big, yeah.
Any quarterback that walks into that matchup down, your number one safety is already licking their chops on the deep ball. And that's where we saw DK Metcalf and then Tyler Lockett make some plays.
On the other hand, they're missing Jamal Adams, and that's probably one of the reasons why we were able to move the ball like we were.
Yeah.
When you're missing your safety.
Very good point.
That is a huge thing. That's why we had such a crazy game. Third down's completely unacceptable. 9 of 12, I already brought that up. Just in their long third down plays, too. And that's just the really frustrating things. We get to this point that we're in position to get the ball back. And 0 punts for them this whole game. That's just ridiculous. It's just, and it feels like they're being outsmarted because we've seen those plays where I think it was like 3rd and 17, right? And we're blitzing for some reason.
Bringing some pressure, yeah.
They did a little delay. The dude took it 40 yards for a touchdown?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if it's not just something blatantly obvious. Because, like you said, 9 for 12, that's totally unacceptable.
And I don't know if that's linebacker play. I think, obviously, Rodriguez has done pretty well. But I don't know. Is Anzalone looking good? Is that the biggest weakness here? I still believe it is. But I don't know if it fixes anything. You know what I mean? And I don't see a way to fix it this year, and that's the thing that scares me the most. So it's got to be scheme. You got to find a way to make it happen. Is it give Derek Barnes more snaps, even though he may not have earned it, and just see if he can run with it? I don't know. It's just really frustrating, and it's making me second guess what I thought about Aaron Glenn heading into the season, because I thought what he did with the scrubs that we had last year was a sign of things to come and what he could do with a little more talent. Well, we got a little more talent, and it's not going well at all.
Yeah, we got some guys back, too.
Yeah.
Kuda's looking pretty good through the first few games.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, because I go back to Hard Knocks, too, when they had, I forget which episode it was, 2 or 3, but where they really, showcase offense versus defense and kind of the smack talk between the two, and obviously they're trying to fluff that up for the camera.
Yep.
But, man, I think this is the reality check. We need to see some change, or there might be some bigger changes, like you said.
So it has been talked about to Dan Campbell about Aaron Glenn and maybe moving on from him. And this was his quote. He said, I've had to do this before, and I'm not afraid to make hard decisions. If I really believed that was the cause, basically saying, is Aaron Glenn the issue? And he said, I don't believe it is. I believe that Aaron Glenn is the right man for the job, and he gives us our best hope, our best option to run this defense. I just do. So obviously the coach is going to say all the right things unless he's already fired the guy, you know what I mean? But I agree with what he's saying. We saw what he did last year with Anthony Lynn. That wasn't going well. He didn't care. He made a decision as a first-time head coach, and he made the decision. It was a tough one, and could have gone really bad, but obviously was the right decision, and it worked out well. I don't think, I mean, try to find the right way to say this. If he had his doubts, he would move on from him. And that's, I think, the comforting thing, but it's also maybe just going to be the talent thing. You know what I mean? Like, maybe this talent is not up to par, and it's linebackers, depth at the ends, interior defensive lineman. I mean, Brockers, I don't even know if Brockers is on the team other than getting a paycheck. I don't see that guy. I mean, you don't really want to see your interior defensive lineman, but it'd be nice to get somebody in there making noise. And hopefully, McNeil continues to get better, and Ruzurike, I think it needs to get healthy yet. But and then also Pascal, we'll see how they use him, because they've talked about using him as an athletic interior defensive lineman. But I don't know. We'll see. And it sounds like he's practicing, but he didn't say he was going to play. So that's where I'm another thing that I'm concerned about heading into this Patriots week and then the bye. It's like, I feel like they're using this as like, all right, we had 3 weeks to really rest these guys, and then we'll go full bore, if you will. And I don't want to risk losing this game, because I think they can get the ship going in the right direction. But I'm nervous about that. If you're not willing to be aggressive this year or this week and start some guys that maybe shouldn't, but maybe should. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I just look at this, and I'm just, if they can improve the defense at all, like if they can somehow sneak into the top 25, this team's going to be legit if this offense is legit as we think it is. And I have no reason to think that they're not, because of what it's doing. So, they did ask Aaron Glenn what needs to get better. He said not give up points. I said that kind of tongue in cheek, and he said that's how you fix it. Just not let them score. Easier said than done, I would say. But the defense is allowing opposing offenses to record explosive plays 19.5% of the time on third down. That means nearly one out of every 5 third down attempts has resulted in a run of at least 12 yards or a pass of at least 16 yards. And that right there is the biggest reason that is third down continues to be an issue, and it's third and longs, it's third and shorts, it's third and everything. And that's where we got to get this thing really figured out.
Yeah, too conservative. Maybe they got, a coverage that is shelling off guys and giving them a little breathing room in hopes to make a tackle, but it's the NFL, man. If you're not tackling like you used to, first of all, and offensive players are coming at you that are bigger than ever. But if you're given too much room to make these plays, then you're taking yourself right out of the ball game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a cause for concern, because on your first and second downs, if you're not getting any quarterback pressure or run pressure, we'll say, man, that's easy for offenses to come in and take advantage of that defense.
Yeah, and heading into this Patriots game, like I'm not feeling confident. I'm not saying that it's impossible to win. I'm not saying it's impossible to lose. It's just, it's one of those games that you're just going to show up on Sunday and be like, all right, who's there? All right, how's this going to look? Because we'd have no idea if Mac Jones is going to play, or is it going to be the Bailey Zappi, or is Brian Hoyer going to play? Like,
it sounds like they also just signed another quarterback.
So that probably means Hoyer's out.
Yeah, and I don't think Mac Jones is
ready to go.
It doesn't sound like he's going to be ready for this weekend.
Which I don't know.
So if we're not beating the Patriots with their third string team, we know what they're going to be doing. They're going to be running the ball. And they got 2 running backs that are, they split carries just like most teams in the NFL. And if we don't play right, they're going to run all over us. So we're going to have to focus on stopping that run, stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
And regardless of who's there for quarterback, force them to make plays with their arm, and we should be able to shut that.
You got to make.
Down.
Let's say it's Brian Hoyer or Bailey Zappi. You got to make them beat you. They don't have weapons through the air. They're going to run the ball. I don't know how to beat a good running game. I don't know what they need to do differently. Obviously, you want to get thicker up front, not pursue as much on the edges, and just do your assignments. But your linebackers, they got to make tackles too.
Yeah. That's
going to be the biggest thing. I don't know what the change is going to be, but it feels like it'll be along the lines of linebackers. Maybe even safety. I'm curious if Will Harris is going to get a chance at safety here. He was drafted as a safety. obviously been moving to corner. I just don't know if anybody else is ready to take that safety position. So that might be what he's talking about, or maybe he's going to bring in Will Harris to take Warrior's spot. I don't know. I just have no feel of this game. I'm just expecting the worst. I'm expecting another close loss is basically where I'm at, just because that's what happens. But man, they have the ability to win this game. That's for darn sure. So we'll kind of just go from there.